During a visit to the mountains today, HUD Secretary Scott Turner condemned a Helene recovery plan submitted by the city of Asheville. It concerns $225 million.
Now, specifically, the city's plan to include help for women and minority-owned businesses within that proposal. And during an interview on Fox Business today, he said that has to change if the city wants funding for Helene housing.
This draft action plan that the city of Asheville presented at first has elements of DEI in their draft action plan, and that is not acceptable to HUD. It's not acceptable to the president according to his executive order to get rid of all DEI. And so we're working with the city of Asheville. They have been very responsive to make sure that their upcoming draft action plan is in compliance with HUD.
News 13's Nisha Pettyhome got reaction from community leaders about this new development. But first, News 13's Justin Berger talked tonight with Asheville Mayor Esther Manheimer.
So the city, like many cities, has a program around contracting with minority and women-owned businesses, and so apparently the reference to that existing program is not something that they want to see in the action plan.
Last week, City of Asheville releasing a 125-page draft action plan regarding community development block grant disaster recovery. It's for around $225 million. The proposal earmarks $15 million for small business support. On page 76, the text reads, quote, "Within the Small Business Support Program, the city will prioritize assistance for minority and women-owned businesses within the scoring criteria outlined within the policies and procedures."
So we have modified the action plan to reflect his concerns, and we've been told the changes that we made are acceptable.
So the changes have already been made?
As far as I know, yes. I mean, it's just a matter of editing the document.
Representative Chuck Edwards also weighing in tonight, quote, "I am glad to hear that the city of Asheville has decided to reevaluate its draft disaster plan to remove all DEI criteria. The city's funding is not going to be stripped away for its misguided draft plan, but I stand with HUD leadership who will continue to work with Asheville leaders to create a plan that adequately supports the entire Asheville community."
It doesn't sound like there's any risk of the funding being pulled. That's what it sounds like to you.
Yes, we're being reassured. They're very eager, and they continue to be eager, this administration, to help support the recovery of Western North Carolina, including Asheville, and we're very appreciative of that.
Residents have until April 3rd to weigh in on the proposal. There is an online portal, and 3 public meetings will be held later this month. Reporting in Asheville, Justin Berger, News 13.
Thank you, Justin. News 13's Nisha Pettyhome is live in the studio with us with more on how community leaders are reacting.
Nisha, what's the takeaway from the people that you talked with?
Yeah, Holly, Patrick, the position from HUD has ignited a debate among city and community leaders over diversity, equity, and inclusion in the allocation of disaster relief.
Minority and women-owned businesses taking a big hit when it comes to funding assistance.
I would suggest that they look at the disparate economic outcomes, and that would take them back to the groups that should be targeted.
On Tuesday, Asheville's initial draft plan faced pushback from federal officials for incorporating DEI criteria as part of how Asheville intends to distribute dollars for Helene disaster relief.
Since some target groups who are of color fall into that, that is a way to get the help that they need.
According to HUD Secretary Scott Turner, it's a criteria deemed dead at HUD.
He doesn't understand the world that we're living in today.
Al Whitesides, Buncombe County Commissioner and advocate for equality and justice, says otherwise.
Because if they knew the history of America, where we've come from, where we are today, and where we need to go, it would be a lot different.
Whitesides argues that dismantling DEI principles undermines the efforts to ensure that everyone receives fair, equitable access to critical resources.
It's not giving anybody anything, but it's giving people the opportunity who are qualified.
Including offering policies that dismantle systemic injustice to improve the lives of all Americans.
We're talking about qualified people who still have to jump through hoops.
Whitesides says DEI programs are essential to help foster an inclusive environment for all, regardless of race, gender, or disability.
You don't hire people because of the color of their skin, if they're male, female, or whatever. but you hire them because they're qualified to do the job. And if you look, you have people who apply from everywhere, but we need to be open and honest and fair about who we hire.
Now, Holly Patrick, many nonprofit organizations and women-owned businesses that prioritize inclusion and diversity could find themselves without the necessary resources needed to fully recover from Helene. Live in the studio, I'm Nisha Pettyhome, News 13.
Turner came from Washington to the mountains to see Helene's devastation for himself. He toured multiple spots, including Swannanoa and other parts of Buncombe County, seeing Helene's impact on the community. Turner leads the department that in January announced $1.6 billion in disaster recovery funds directed towards North Carolina and the city of Asheville. We briefly spoke with Turner at the end of his visit. He said what he saw and who he met gave him a new perspective on his work as HUD secretary.
To the natural eye, you see what the flood waters have done. So I'm glad to be here, to be a part, to learn, to listen, to support, to pray. And when you see the American people, the resilience of the American people, like here in Asheville, is very encouraging.
Turner also spotlighted the work of nonprofit Samaritan's Purse. It is working towards rebuilding 1,800 Western North Carolina homes.